Okay, welcome to Chouincha's Labyrinth. This is an ear training program designed to help students learn how to take melodic dictation, and it works on major and minor modes. So I just want to give you a quick run through of what the program looks like. So training area, first of all, we can choose to work on a horizontal or a vertical keyboard. Let's start with the horizontal keyboard. And as you can see, we have several levels that we can practice at. So for example, I want to practice with 3-note melodies, always starting on the 1st or 4th of the major scale. I want to practice in a range of 5 notes. So let's start with that. Now what happens is that we have our little professor here, and we can play back any notes on the keyboard either by clicking on these blue buttons, or we can also click on the keys. But we can't click on the keys once we're giving our answer, because once we click on the keys while giving our answer, it'll take those as answers. So basically, the blue buttons will help us to test the notes and to see if we're hearing the right note. And once we're ready to give our answers, we just click on the keyboard. So let me show you. Let's say we start with the first question. Okay, so now we heard a 3-note sequence. We can choose to have it played again. And the helpful hints here help us to tell by telling us that this particular sequence starts on either 1 or 3. So we can test it here. We know let's see, it starts on 1. I think the first note was 1. Okay, so it was 1. Something else. No, not 2. Okay, 1, 7, 1. That sounds correct. Now you see I've pressed the blue buttons here in order to test my answer, but when I'm ready to give the answer, I click on the keys. And the professor tells me my first note is correct, my second note is correct, and my third note is correct. And I receive 1 point. And now I can continue by clicking anywhere on the screen, and I can listen to my second melody. Okay, and again we can test whether it starts on 1 or 4 by either hitting the 1 or the 4. That doesn't sound right. Okay, that sounds right. Let's listen to the sequence. And so we try 1, this time 2. Okay, so 1 is the first note. Now we can replay it, even though we haven't given our entire sequence, our entire answer, we can still replay the question. Okay, now we've given the first answer, so now the first note is correct. The second note is 2, so we click on the 2, and the second note is correct. And the third note, we replay it, 1, 2, and obviously the last note is 1. There we go, and we continue with the next question. Okay, this is the same one as the first one. You see, obviously when we're working with 3 notes, we're a little bit limited, but we can continue. And let's say that this time I answer incorrectly. I play 1 and 2. Now the program automatically tells me you made a mistake. The correct degree was -7. Here is the entire sequence that was played: 1, -7, 1. -7 would be the 7 below the 1, obviously. So it would be the 7 just below the leading note of this scale. And we can replay the sequence. And we can play it back here on the blue buttons. And to make sure that we actually hear and recognize that it was actually 1, 7, 1. And when we're ready to continue, we click anywhere on the screen, or we click here, and it continues. Next note sequence. Alright, so this one was different. Obviously 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 3 actually, sorry. And we can test it. And that was a 3, yes. And we can continue. Okay, so now this is a different sequence. It goes up to the 5th. Now we know the first note is 1. Now the second note, we'll test it. Was it 4? Was it 5? Let's test it. 1, 5. Okay, it was 1, 5. And obviously, while the students are doing this, they have to sing it. They have to sing. And we've I already figured it out. So it's 1, 5, and the last note would be 3. And we continue. Now each question set has 10 questions. Each quiz has 10 questions. At the end, the student gets the results. So you get the idea. We can restart. We can return back to the title page. Now we'll take a different type of quiz on a vertical keyboard. Now as you'll notice, the keyboard is placed vertically on the left side of the screen, and it's placed in an ascending order, meaning that the lowest notes are on the bottom and the highest notes are on the top, thus permitting the students to have a visual reference with the pitches. So let's say we pick something a little bit harder. Let's say we go with 7 notes, and again in a range of a fifth. And we start the quiz. And we can test our notes here again. Again, and by clicking on the blue buttons. And we start our quiz. Okay, now we have a 7-note sequence. Now this sequence can start on either 1 or 4 again. And the first note would be 1, so I hit the 1 and I can replay it. It's obviously 1 5 3 5 1 7 1. That's the sequence. Now a student would try to find the second note and compare it. Okay, so we know that the first 2 notes are 1 5. So he would give a second note 5. So he has 1 5. No, let's say 1 5. Okay, he notes it's a 3 5. So the next 2 notes are 3 5. We'll click on the 3, on the 5. And we have up to the 4th note. Now we'll listen to the last 2 notes, the last 3 notes. The last 3 notes. 1, it goes back to 1, and it goes below 1. So therefore, 1, 7, 1. And same thing. If the student makes a mistake in a sequence. Okay. So let's say we start with 1. And we make a mistake here. Instead of going to 4, we'll go to 2. And so the program tells us that the actual degree that we played incorrectly was 4, which was the 3rd degree here. So the actual sequence 3 4 5 3 2 1, and the student can play it back 1 3 4 5 3 2 1, and he can isolate each section like 3 2 1 to try to reference that with a snippet of music like Mary Had a Little Lamb. Okay, you can imagine that. So that's 3 2 1. So he can make all those references here, and the program stops and lets the student examine and analyze his mistakes. And that's it basically for the training area. Now if we go back into the actual game here, now the game, there's instructions, but the actual game is I'll play a mission for you very quickly. Now the student has to enter his name so that he may continue and reload a saved game at a later date. Click our name, and now here we are. We're in the first level. Now we're on a mission here. Basically, we have to bring our sheep safely to the exit and collect all the stones and identify the melodies for energy points. Now collecting the stones, I click on the screen. Always in the same direction. Everybody follows the leader. The thing is that if one sheep gets stuck against the wall, the other ones continue, and that creates some very interesting variations in their movement. And this creates also some interesting puzzles for the player to solve, not only on a musical level, but also on a logical level, where he has to find the exit in a way that is safe for all his sheep, because the sheep otherwise could land on explosives like this mine here. We want to avoid the mine. And there are only 2 mines on this level, which is a very easy level. Basically, it's a training level. But as it gets more difficult, there will be little saw creatures running around, and there's going to be all kinds of little traps and walls that appear or disappear depending on where the sheep stand. And so it makes for a very challenging logical puzzle as well. So let's go pick up our first stone here, and little professor appears and tells us you will hear a 3-note melody. Listen to it carefully, sing it, and imagine it in your head. Imagine the direction of movement of the relative position of each note. So these are basic instructions. Again, it's the same thing as the training area. Okay, so we heard our sequence. Now we can test it. We know it's 1. We know the first 2 notes are 1 actually. And we'll test it again. No. Let's try 114. No. Maybe. And it is actually 115, so we put back our answers and 5. And once we get the correct answer, we receive 1 energy point. And we continue moving. Next puzzle, next question. Okay. Now, if I make a mistake, which I will do intentionally here, it's 1, 5, but I'll give 1, 4. Now I made a mistake. Now the problem is when I make a mistake, it tells me that if I have trouble with these melodies, I should return to the training area. But in the game, an actual goblin will appear, and the goblin will move through the maze like this, and I have to try to avoid him by moving my sheep out of the way, because if he catches them, he will eat one. Oops, he did. Alright. So he ate one of my sheep, and if you lose one of the sheep, then the other ones will be devastated and they can't go on. And so we have to start the level over again. Now the idea here is to get the sheep to the exit in a safe and orderly manner, like this. And I continue. As I go on, I always have to keep an eye on every single sheep to make sure that none of them get into trouble. Okay, and it will start with 4. That's the sequence. Now we're getting close to the exit. Okay, 1 sheep is on its way out, so let's get that sheep out. We saved 1 sheep. Now we got 4 more to go. There we go. Now, see? Now I'm avoiding the actual musical questions in this level because I could do it on this level, but this is the only level on which I can do that. All the other levels, you have to answer the questions and pick up the gems in order to get to the exits. And you see, once I've done this, I'm done. I've solved this level, and I can go to the next level. Now, this next level, as you can see, has quite a different layout, and I have to, first of all, plan how I'm going to get my sheep in line to get through this wall of mines. The idea here is, okay, before I go on, I can just save my game so that next time I decide to play, I can start again directly from this level. And that's what I think I'll do by clicking here. And there we go. Now I've saved it. Now if I walk this way, obviously when one of my sheep touches a mine, too bad. Well, now there's 1 sheep less, and again, as I said, the other sheep can't go on because of trauma. So we try again. So you get the idea. If I get into a position where it's completely hopeless for me to continue, and I know that I can't go on because I either walked myself into a trap or locked myself into an area that I can't get out of, I can always restart a level. And that puts me back in my starting position, and this way I don't lose any lives. So basically that's it for the Chouincha's Labyrinth. I hope that you enjoy it, and I will be back on my next tutorial to explain another one of my educational music games. Thank you.